Hey everyone, Mr. MC here, back with another Gran Turismo 7 video where for this video I'm actually going to take a look at one of the single player races. This is the World Touring Car 600 Performance Point race that takes place at Road Atlanta, and this is a pretty short race. It's only 5 laps long. Your car must be 600 performance points or under, and there are a couple cars that can give you a bit of trouble depending on where they start. Another thing is that nitrous can be used, but for this video I'm going to use a car in a tune that does not have nitrous and that does not have an engine swap, as engine swaps can potentially break the performance points. But this was also done on the controller and I had the AI set to hard. Let's go ahead and get started with the car that I picked, which is the Toyota Celica. This car can be bought from the used car dealership, and as of the recording of this video, November 18, 2025, it is still in rotation, so go ahead and grab yourself a Toyota Celica. Now, when I'm upgrading a car, the first thing I like to do is to go over to GT Auto and throw a wide body at it. This tends to give the car a bit more downforce to play around with, so go ahead and give yourself a wide body. For the wheels, this one's pretty important. You must use the standard wheels. Do not use custom wheels. If you use custom wheels, the performance points will jump up by 10, and that's going to shoot you above the 600 performance point limit. So standard wheels with the wide offset. In terms of the front bumper, I want to go with type B, so that's going to give me a bit more front downforce values to play around with. The side skirt, it's up to you. This one doesn't affect anything. For the rear bumper, you need to choose type A. If you use type B, it'll give you a diffuser and it'll shoot up your performance points, which is what you don't want. So go with type A. For the rear wing, you want to use a custom wing set, as it'll give you a lot more rear downforce points to play around with compared to types A and B. And in terms of the roll cage, sometimes it'll change your performance points, but in the case of this one, it doesn't adjust any performance points, so this one you can pick anyone or none at all. Now, taking a look at my setup, I wanted to challenge myself a bit by making sure I was using sports soft tires, using the fully customizable suspension and the fully customizable racing transmission. So I did stiffen up the suspension a bit so the car doesn't feel way too squishy to drive. There is a bit of rake going on with the lower front ride height and the higher rear ride height, and that's just to try to get the car to be a bit more willing to turn, even adding a bit of ballast towards the rear of the car so I could try to get this thing to turn, as the Celica is a front heavy vehicle. And do note that I was able to put in quite a bit of power, 456 horsepower. You'll see all the engine upgrades that I was able to put in a bit, but that's something I want to note, that whereas with some of the other cars I was tuning, I wasn't able to put in as much power. With the Celica, I was able to put in quite a bit of power, so 456 horsepower on sports soft tires is going to make life a bit easier, and still having the ability to change the transmission and the suspension settings. There is quite a bit of rear downforce, so that rear downforce is helping a lot with dropping the performance points, and I was still able to put in a bit of front downforce, so it'll make life a bit easier trying to navigate through the first sector with a bit of speed. Now, again, what is interesting about the Celica was that I was able to put in quite a bit of power, to the point where I was able to put in most of the engine upgrades and even put in one weight stage reduction into the car. Now, one important thing I need to tell you is that the Celica does not have an upgraded brake system nor brake pads, so we're running stock here, which means that you're going to need to brake pretty early so you don't overshoot these turns, especially as you're going down the back straight. So that is something that you do want to be aware of. Brake nice and early. And when I mean early, I really do mean early. Now, in terms of the anti-lag system, I didn't notice too much of a difference with it at strong compared to off, so I went ahead and just turned off the anti-lag system so I can have more performance points to play around with, which means more power. And finally, here are my transmission settings. So this is with the fully customizable racing transmission. Now, I didn't do too much with the top speed auto says, so I think I left it at 260 kilometers per hour. For the final gear, I don't think I adjusted it. The main thing I adjusted were the individual gears. Now, if you do decide to use nitrous, go ahead and extend the 5th gear so your car can actually hit higher speeds, because with this setup, this is without the nitrous. So yeah, just want to make a note of that. But now let's go ahead and get this car onto the track. Now, as we get started with the race, one of the problem cars is actually starting in 15th place, which is good for us because that means that this car is much less likely to become a problem throughout the race. And the car in question is this yellow RGT that's hanging out right here. So if this car is starting towards the front, he's going to give you a hell of a hard time, as there's a much higher chance that he'll break out of the pack, and he's going to be lapping, I think it's like 130s, 131s. I think there was one point where he was almost able to even get a 129. So yeah, he's going to make your life pretty difficult if he's starting in the front. There is another problem car that's up ahead, but he's not as much of a problem car as the RGT that we just passed. But if he's starting towards the back, then your life is going to be a bit easier, as he does tend to struggle to get past all these cars, especially if there's a group of cars fighting with each other. But for you, yeah, you're going to need to be pretty aggressive just trying to pass all these cars, because 5 laps at Road Atlanta is not that many laps, or not that much time. So depending on your pace and the car you're using and the tune, you're probably looking at a race that's around 7 minutes 10 seconds to 7 minutes 20 seconds. Now, jumping up ahead, here is the other problem car, which is the green Lamborghini Huracan. There is a chance that this car will not appear in the race. I've had that happen at least one time where it just didn't appear in the race. But if this car appears in the race, yeah, he's going to give you a hard time as well. He is pretty fast on the straights, but he is pretty slow on the turns. So that is something that you definitely do want to know. And if both the RGT and the Lamborghini are starting towards the front, yeah, good luck. You're gonna need it. Unless if you have nitrous, then that's a different story. But yeah, as you see right there, these cars can group up with each other, and it does get pretty annoying trying to get past them, unless if you get super aggressive like that. And again, you do want to be super aggressive, especially if one of the faster cars are starting towards the front. So as you can see, with the faster cars starting towards the middle and the back, yeah, these AI cars they're pretty easy to deal with, and even catching up to first place towards the start of lap number 4. So yeah, things are looking pretty good so far, and we're gonna go ahead and skip towards the end of the race in a bit, where I was able to get a pretty comfortable lead, finishing the race at least 7 seconds ahead of second place. So yeah, if the faster cars are starting towards the back, then yeah, your life is going to be a bit easier. Now, let's say that you get a starting grid that is pretty terrible and you just want to change it. So what you want to do is, when you enter the race, you look at the grid, you're like, yeah, I don't want to do this, let me go ahead and re-roll it. So what you're going to do is you're going to completely back out of the event by clicking on the red exit button. So it'll take you back to the race menu for Road Atlanta. Then just go ahead and re-enter the race. And yeah, just go ahead and hit enter, and it'll re-roll the car list for you. Alright, so hopefully the RGT and the Huracan are starting towards the back, so let's see what this looks like. Oh, son of a bitch. Okay, so this is where we're pretty much at a nightmare scenario where the RGT and the Huracan are starting at the very front in first and second place. So if this happens, you either re-roll it and hope for the best, or you try to take them on. If you try to take them on, yeah, you're going to need to be really fast. So you want the car to be pretty fast, and you want yourself to be pretty fast. And because of this, you do not want to get held up by any of the cars, because getting held up by any of the cars means time lost, which means your chances of winning the race will go down pretty drastically, especially with the RGT being really fast. So you saw I'm just squeezing myself into the corner, just trying to get past these cars as quickly as possible. Now this Subaru is going to get in the way, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to slow myself down a little bit more, get the car pointing towards the back straight, and then just step on the throttle. Luckily, with the way that the car is set up, it's pretty easy to just slam on the throttle and off you go, getting a good launch, especially with the help of this car being in all-wheel drive. And definitely do take advantage of the slipstream, so going behind the cars, you'll be able to gain a bit more speed, but just do be aware that if you are going a bit faster because of the slipstream, you're going to need to brake a bit earlier. So that is something that you want to be aware of, especially if you're taking advantage of the slipstream down the back straight. Be careful with this final corner. Some of the cars just love to park their car at the apex of the very last corner, so yeah, you want to get ready to go around them because they may park it there and you don't want to run into them. Now luckily the Subaru and the Aston Martin kind of got themselves out of the way, so I didn't lose too much time going past them. Gonna tap on the brakes so I can make sure that I can make it through the S's while staying on the track. Brake before the curb on the right starts, as again you are on the stock brake, so your brakes are not the best. Yeah, the thing is that with the brakes, it adds too many performance points, so those performance points could go towards more power, and you definitely want to take advantage of just stuffing as much power as you can into your car, so you can have a better chance of being able to catch up to the faster cars, especially if they're starting towards the front. And again, take advantage of the slipstream, hanging out behind the Supra, able to gain a bit more speed. Gonna get past them and then start to brake just as you start to go down the hill right here, down to first gear, and just try to get the car to rotate a little bit more, a little bit of throttle control, get the car pointed towards the next section, and then just get on the throttle. You can tap a bit on the brakes for this final corner, especially if you got a really fast exit out of the chicane, so that is something that you want to be aware of. Brake before the grass on the left ends down into third gear, and then just be nice and careful getting back on the throttle so you don't understeer onto the grass. Brake well before the curb on the left starts, down to second gear, actually down to first gear for more rotation, but exit on second gear. A little bit of throttle control, and again tap on the brakes or do a quick lift off the throttle. Brake well before the curb on the right starts. And for this section going into turn number 6, you do need to brake really early. You're going to brake well before the tarmac on the right side of the track starts, so well before the 200 feet line. Then brake just as you finish turn number 6. Get the car pointing towards the next section of the track and get on the throttle as early as you can. And again, this car luckily is an all-wheel drive, so it is slightly more forgiving to drive compared to, say, a front-engine rear-wheel drive car like the Maserati Gran Turismo. You know, I definitely did not spend like 3 hours trying to tune that car just to figure out that I could have just tuned this car instead and beaten the RGT. You know, that was definitely not me. But anyways. And once again, you do want to be a little careful with the final turn, using a little bit of braking if you need to make sure that you stay on the track with this. This is actually my fastest. I'm getting a 124.979. So if you're able to get into the 125s, 124s, then you do have a higher chance of being able to catch up to the RGT if they are starting towards the front. And again, they're doing, I think it's like 130s, 131s. But the thing is that they're starting so far up ahead that you're going to be cutting it pretty close to try to catch up to them and get past them. But luckily right there, I was able to pass the Huracan. Yeah, he's a bit slow on the turns, but it's on the straight line areas, so like right here and the back straight, where he can be a bit problematic. Especially if you're lacking going power, then he's just going to gain time on you really quickly. It's going to be a bit of a similar problem with the RGT, but because I was able to stuff in so much power, I'm actually not going to be losing as much time down the back straight. If your car doesn't have power, he's going to make your life difficult because the RGT has quite a bit of power. Now again, I could have put nitrous onto this car and extended the 5th gear a bit so I can have even more speed to play around with, but again, I wanted to challenge myself by not using the nitrous, and also wanted to challenge myself by making sure that I had a custom suspension setup and a racing transmission. I mean, yeah, I could have taken off the suspension setup, so go with stock suspension and maybe even gone with a default transmission setup, but that'd be kind of boring. Like, yeah, I'll have even more power to play around with, but it's like, I mean, yeah, that'd be kind of boring for me, and I wanted to challenge myself a bit. But luckily, I'm able to catch up to the RGT. Now I just got to try to get past him, but luckily he's going to slow down a bit right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and squeeze myself through for turn number 5, and then just try to get on the throttle as early as I can, and just hope that the RGT is not able to catch up to me too quickly. Luckily, he does slow down a bit, quite a bit, for turns number 6 and 7, which is where we're at right now. So he does lose quite a bit of time, and he is going to try to catch up a bit on the back straight, but looks like he's actually losing just a little bit of time, so he's actually having a slightly harder time trying to catch up to me, which is good. Now I just got to make sure I finish the race in one piece, so go ahead and brake just as you start to go down the hill. There we go, down to first gear. There we go, down to first gear. Just be nice and careful getting back on the throttle. Go ahead and get back on the throttle for the final turn. You can use a little bit of your braking so you can make sure that you stay on the track, and there we go. So able to finish his race and able to beat the RGT without using nitrous, without using the engine swap. But yeah, hopefully this video helps you out or entertain you in some sort of way. Now, normally I don't make these types of videos because, yeah, I just normally don't, but this one caught my eye. It's a little bit interesting, so yeah, do let me know what you think. This is Mr. CA, and I'll see you in the next video.